It increasingly looks like there's two Democrat parties here, especially after the Virginia election completely shattered any idea that the Democrats had that they thought was good. Given none of their ideas are very good, let's face facts. They're not very good at all. I mean, critical race theory, introducing transgenderism to children, homosexuality, and homosexual acts depicted in children's books that they display prominently in high schools, where kids will get curious and look at them. All of these ideas are ideas that are backed or created by Democrats or leftists in general. And then they have the tenacity to come out and say, not even the tenacity, let's say the hubris, the absolute hubris to come out and say, well, we don't think that parents should be able to determine what their kids learn in high school or school in general, in public school. That might be one of the stupidest things I've ever heard from the left. I've heard a lot of stupid things. It takes a lot of hubris to come to that conclusion, to think that you can actually come up against the parents of America and think that you're going to win this battle. It's ridiculous. But this is part of the reason why Glenn Youngkin won in Virginia. It's very easy to see. It wasn't, they tried everything to stop him from being elected. They tried to say, they did everything. They pulled out all the buzzwords, all the racism accusations, all the accusations of homophobia and bigotry and blah, blah, blah. They tried it all. Didn't work. Bounced right off of him. Because you cannot put yourself between parents and children and expect to survive. It's as true as it is in nature as it is with humans. All right? Step between a grizzly mama and her cub. Just try it. See what happens. So now we have a Democrat Party that is learning a little bit better. Well, some of them. Let's say some of them. Because after Virginia, you had a lot of people out there who determined that the reason that they lost was because they weren't radical enough. You had people who are now making excuses and telling themselves stories saying, oh, well, the reason that the GOP won in Virginia is because of racist dog whistles. That it's people just love white supremacy and they just happen to press the white supremacy button just right this time. And so everyone signed up for this white supremacy in Virginia, which is just more stupid stuff. It's more ridiculousness coming from the Democrat Party. So you have this Democrat Party who is trying to rationalize its radicalism, despite the fact that it's losing people. And then you have a Democrat Party that is trying to reform itself, that is trying to bring itself back toward the center. And this is going to spark a civil war within the Democrat Party. I think that the Democrat Party is going to be pretty wrapped up in this war for some time because they let it get too far. They've been letting this get too far for decades now. This social justice nonsense that they have been trying to inject the public with has now turned on itself, and now it's eating itself alive, and they are going to be busy trying to fight one another for control of the Democrat Party. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about the radicals on the left, such as AOC, Ilhan Omar, all these people who are truly, truly, truly of the extremist left. And then you have people like Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, these centrists-esque, who are trying to make sure that the party does not drift too far off to the left and actually maintain some semblance of being a party of America, from America, if you will. This is going to spark a civil war. Virginia was the start of many victories for Republicans and a civil war for Democrats. This is up at redstate.com right now. Virginia was a huge get for Republicans, and not just on the state level, it was an outright victory for party's policy positions as well. Now, here we have Republicans, they have a strategy now. They have a strategy that Glenn Youngkin found, and it works very well. It won Virginia. It won a blue state. They say it's purple. It's been blue for a while. But now we're bringing it right back. All right, we're injecting red into that blue. I wouldn't say that Virginia is completely a blue state, a purple state yet, but we might get there if we just keep pushing this. All right, But the important part of this article is the issues that lie within the Democrat Party. And as you can see, there's still some confusion about what they need or want to do. As Politico reported on Wednesday, moderates felt the heat from implosion in Virginia. They felt it even before the results came in, and as such seem to be wanting to rein in the Democrat agenda to be far more reasonable and are unwilling to vote for politically toxic moves. This, of course, means people like Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema. But the issue is that you still have people who are trying to push this forward, this radical agendas forward, Nancy Pelosi being one of them. Instead of kind of reeling it back like Joe Manchin thinks that they should do on the spending bill, Nancy Pelosi is wanting to rush it on through. Manchin wants to stop, wants to take his time, wants to look at it, wants to iron it out, wants to make it perfect. Nancy Pelosi says, nope, just throw everything you can that you possibly can in there, and we're just going to shove it on through as fast as humanly possible. Don't even think about it. And that's a true sign of radicalism right there, if you ask me. If they're trying to put forth a bill that they basically aren't even going to read, they're just throwing all sorts of stuff in there, all this spending of our money. They're throwing it all in there and saying, we don't want to have time to discuss it. We don't want the news to report about it. We don't want Tucker Carlson analyzing it. Just get it on through as soon as humanly possible. We'll deal with the fallout later if there is any. That in itself is legislative radicalism. We can't have that in our society. And people are starting to catch on to that. Nancy Pelosi is willing to take our money in heaps and piles, warehouses full of it, and just throw it away in order to pass something so that the Democrats look good come midterms. By the way, there's nothing they can do right now to stop this from happening, to make them look good, to stop their losses from happening. It's over for Democrats here in the midterms. The question is can they turn their ship around for 2024, which I don't think that they can. Not at this rate. This civil war that I'm talking about right now is going to be so devastating for the Democrat Party. They're going to be fighting it for a while because one side has to win. They can't continue down this road for forever. It's going to split the vote. All right? At some point in time, one party or one part of this party has to overcome the other. And I think that there are people out there who actually get it. Tulsi Gabbard, next Democrat from senator from Hawaii, gets it big time. She was actually out there talking about how Terry McAuliffe's loss is a victory for all Americans. Why? Because it was a resounding rejection of efforts to divide us by race, the stripping of parental rights, and arrogant, deaf leaders. This benefits us all. Doesn't stop there. So many people don't really like Tulsi Gabbard on the left because they consider her something of a traitor. She appears on Tucker Carlson. Of course she would say something like this. She's too moderate to be a Democrat. She might as well be considered a Republican. Well, what about this guy? This guy is an NBC, Donnie Deutsch. He's an MSNBC analyst. He has been advising and helping Democrats out for a very long time. He's well known in the strategist community. He doesn't seem to think that the radicals should win. He said, if the Republicans ran anybody but Donald Trump, they would win in a landslide. Anybody just right of center. Anybody. They could run a bottle of water with an R on it. It would win against Joe Biden right now. Deutsch warned that if someone like Ron DeSantis were to run against Biden in 2024, then the Republican governor would win by double digits. Scarborough added, he was on Scarborough's show, Morning Joe, added that he'd never seen the Democrats so wildly out of step with the mainstream America, and it's causing quite a bit of unrest from within. Donnie, I'm hearing this from lifelong liberals, lifelong progressives on a variety of issues, said Scarborough. Deutsch noted that he lives in a deep blue area in the Upper East Side of Manhattan that couldn't be more left-leaning. He and his neighbors all voted Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, but not a lot of Biden voters, just anti-Trump voters. According to Deutsch, Biden doesn't have the hearts and minds of the country, and what's worse, the radical leftists the Democrat Party is embracing are poisoning the people against it. And the other Democrats, this is him, quote, and the other Democrats that we see being paraded forward, the AOCs of the world, the far left, are suicide for the Democrats, said Deutsch. So the Democrats better get some new faces, and the Democrats better figure out that this world lives just right of center on a good year. Just left of center. or on a good year just left of center. And it's this socialist kind of pulling all the way to the left is a disaster. So we have a longtime Democrat strategist who he lives in bluest of the blue state, bluest of the blue neighborhood. This guy is a Democrat through and through and through. And you have two MSNBC hosts on there, both of them Democrats, talking about how horrible the Democrat Party is doing right now under the pressure of this radical left, that you have people out there in neighborhoods no longer willing to advocate for this type of Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is in shambles. It's having an identity crisis. It can't figure out who it is. And in order for it to do so, it's going to have to go to war with itself. I think that this war is going to last a while. It's going to sacrifice them. The midterms, it's going to sacrifice for them 2024. They're not going to figure themselves out in time. And this war, who knows how long it's going to go on for. But here's what I think. As much as I don't like the Democrat Party, I don't like it primarily because of how radical it is. I think that this nation does need multiple parties. I think it needs multiple perspectives. I do not think that the Republicans should maintain complete control at all times just because that's how corruption happens. Once a party thinks, as the Democrats do, and once a party thinks that it is a right to the nation, to the people, that it can just rule by fiat, it becomes corrupt. It becomes a beacon for corruption. People who want power and riches and to have their groups first or them first, they will go to the Republican Party, and the Republican Party that you know today will no longer be anything that it will be unrecognizable. It's not going to get better. So I think there need to be multiple parties. But I do think that this nation would benefit from a Democrat Party that is highly moderate. I'm talking Kennedy days kind of stuff. Days that now they look back and they would consider Kennedy a Republican. We need more Mansions. We need more Tulsi Gabbards as Democrat representatives and senators. Period. If we had those, this nation, I think, would have a much easier time figuring out what it is, who it wants to be. And this woke culture that we have that has infected our mainstream culture, it would start to dissipate. And it needs to dissipate because it is hurting people. It's not just hurting people. People are hurting themselves from it. People are making decisions that are going to affect them for the rest of their life. And they think right now that it's cool and it's trendy and that's the thing to do and no one's going to get hurt. That this woke culture is the same culture that's pushing transgenderism. It's pushing critical race theory. It's pushing pedophilia even. And we have to get to a point where we outright reject it. But in order for us to outright reject it, one of the two major parties, political parties here in the United States, also has to reject it. And right now, it is not. Right now, it has halfway embraced it. It is trying to infect the rest of the Democrat Party. It's trying to push out moderates like Joe Manchin or Kirsten Sinema. And we cannot allow that to happen. At some point in time, one of these sides is going to have to win. They're not going to destroy each other. One is going to win over the other. It's better that we support. And when I say support, I mean cheer on. I'm not saying go pull the lever for them. But it's better that we cheer on and show our support for those who are fighting against this woke stuff within the party. So by all means, cheer on Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema when they do well, lambast them when they do bad. But they are currently fighting a civil war, and we definitely have one group that we want to win over the other. That's the way it is. That's reality. I'll see you in the next video. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or learned anything, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification icon so you're made aware when we upload new content. See you in the next video.